Most salary raises don't make people richer, they trap them. Then the lifestyle arrived. The better apartment, the furniture upgrade, the car payment, the subscriptions you forgot you even had, the expensive weekends that slowly stopped feeling optional, and without realizing it, your entire life became more expensive than your freedom. At first, it felt harmless, responsible even, like proof that life was finally moving forward. Because modern adulthood teaches people one thing above everything else: upgrade, improve, level up, keep climbing. But nobody talks about what happens after the upgrades become permanent, because eventually, the lifestyle stops feeling like a reward and starts feeling like maintenance. The terrifying part is how invisible the transition feels. One day you're celebrating a salary increase. A few months later, one missed paycheck feels dangerous. One emergency feels personal. One layoff feels catastrophic. And suddenly your career no longer feels like ambition. It feels like survival. That's the trap most people never fully notice. The pressure didn't disappear when the income increased. The pressure simply changed shape, because the higher your lifestyle climbs, the more fragile your peace becomes. People think financial stress comes from not earning enough money, but often it comes from building a life that costs too much to maintain emotionally, mentally, and financially. And modern culture quietly encourages that cycle everywhere. Study harder, work longer, earn more, buy better things, display progress, repeat, somewhere along the way. Adulthood stopped being about building a meaningful life. It became a performance of stability, a performance of success, a performance designed for strangers scrolling past your existence online. And the terrifying part is, most people never realize they're trapped, because the cage looks exactly like the dream they were taught to chase. There was a time when adulthood sounded simple. Study hard, get a stable job, buy a house, build a family, retire peacefully. That was the promise: a predictable life, a safe life, a meaningful life. But modern reality quietly changed the rules. Now people don't enter adulthood, they enter financial maintenance. Life became a recurring payment system. Rent, EMIs, subscriptions, insurance, debt. Every month the machine waits patiently for your salary before it disappears again, and slowly people stopped feeling like human beings. They started feeling like monthly cash flow. In many major cities today, rent alone consumes massive portions of income. Burnout continues rising. Anxiety has become normal, and despite technology supposedly making life easier, people feel more exhausted than ever. Because modern life discovered something powerful: a financially anxious population is easier to influence. So slowly, people were taught to connect self-worth to lifestyle. Modern culture stopped selling products. It started selling identities. The apartment became identity. The phone became identity. The car became identity. And once lifestyle becomes identity, downsizing starts feeling like failure. So people sacrifice peace for appearances, time for status, mental health for validation. And the deeper they fall into the performance, the harder it becomes to stop, because the system became smarter over time. It no longer needed force to control people. It discovered something far more effective: desire. Modern capitalism realized something terrifying. People will willingly trap themselves if the trap feels luxurious enough. So entire industries were built around emotional dependence. Advertising monetized insecurity. Social media monetized comparison. Subscription culture monetized convenience. Debt culture monetized impatience. And suddenly, every insecurity became profitable. If you feel lonely, there's something to buy. If you feel stressed, there's something to order. If you feel behind in life, there's always something new to display. Because peaceful people consume less, and consumption is no longer logical. It's psychological. That's why someone can earn 6 figures and still feel financially terrified. Because lifestyle inflation grows faster than emotional satisfaction. The bigger the income becomes, the bigger the expectations become. Better neighborhood, better lifestyle, more expensive habits, higher social pressure, more invisible stress, and eventually, people stop earning for freedom. They start earning to maintain an identity. That's why burnout became normal. Because people are no longer just supporting themselves financially. They're supporting carefully constructed versions of themselves designed for approval, acceptance, and appearances. Somewhere tonight, someone is sitting inside a luxury apartment they can barely afford, eating expensive delivery food after a 12-hour workday, too exhausted to enjoy the lifestyle they work endlessly to maintain. And somehow, this became normal. Then social media made everything worse. For the first time in human history, people began comparing their ordinary lives to millions of carefully edited realities every single day. And the algorithm never lets the comparison end. Someone is always richer, more attractive, more successful, more ahead in life. Because insecurity keeps attention locked. Envy increases engagement. Emotional dissatisfaction increases spending. The platforms understand human psychology perfectly. So people wake up already overstimulated, already anxious, already feeling insufficient before the day even begins, and eventually the nervous system adapts to permanent pressure. That's why so many adults feel exhausted while doing completely normal things. The pressure never actually leaves. Inflation rises faster than salaries. Cities become unaffordable. Groceries become stressful. Rest starts feeling unproductive. And slowly, people begin experiencing a strange kind of silent depression. Not dramatic sadness, not emotional breakdowns, just numbness. Wake up, commute, work, consume, sleep, repeat. And sometimes the scariest part isn't the stress. It's how normal the stress started feeling. People became so accustomed to exhaustion, they started calling it adulthood. Because somewhere deep down, millions of people are quietly asking themselves the same terrifying question. Is this really what life is supposed to feel like? And maybe that question itself is the real wake-up call. Because the modern economy was never optimized for peace. It was optimized for growth, and growth depends on constant consumption. So the machine keeps moving, faster trends, faster upgrades, faster dopamine, faster comparison. But despite all the speed, people feel emotionally stuck. Because some people earn more every year while feeling less free every month. Income increased, but dependency increased faster. And maybe that's the real reason so many people feel emotionally trapped now. Not because they lack money, but because they've built lifestyles that require constant emotional sacrifice to maintain. Because once your peace depends on income, your freedom slowly disappears. That's why real transformation rarely starts financially. It starts psychologically. The moment someone stops needing validation from lifestyle, the system starts losing power over them. And suddenly, smaller things begin feeling bigger. A quiet morning without notifications. A slow evening without pressure to spend money. Cooking at home instead of ordering convenience. Ignoring trends. Keeping the old phone. Saying no to upgrades that exist only for appearances. At first, it feels uncomfortable. Because modern culture trained people to associate simplicity with failure. Silence feels unproductive. Rest feels lazy. Contentment feels like lack of ambition. But over time, something unexpected begins happening. The noise starts fading. The comparison weakens. The anxiety softens. And people slowly remember what peace actually feels like. Not luxury, not status, peace. Because real wealth was never about owning more. It was about needing less external validation, less financial pressure, less emotional dependence on appearances, less obsession with proving something to people who were never thinking about you as much as you imagined. Because freedom is not buying everything you want. Freedom is reducing the number of things capable of controlling you. Maybe adulthood was never supposed to feel this exhausting. Maybe people were simply pushed into systems that normalized anxiety so deeply, they started calling it ambition. That's why the happiest moments in life rarely look impressive online. They're usually quiet, private, unperformative, a peaceful dinner at home, a weekend without social pressure, a conversation uninterrupted by notifications, a life that no longer feels like competition. Because the truth is, the salary was never the real prison. The real prison was the lifestyle people built around it, a lifestyle designed to keep them consuming, performing, comparing and working endlessly just to maintain an image of success. And maybe the scariest part is, most people will never escape. Because when the cage looks beautiful, people stop trying to leave, but a few people eventually realize something different. That peace has no luxury brand, freedom has no status symbol, and self-worth has nothing to do with lifestyle. Maybe real wealth was never about displaying success. Maybe it was about reducing dependence. Dependence on validation, dependence on comparison, dependence on constant consumption, just to feel valuable. Because freedom is not the ability to buy everything. Freedom is the ability to remain at peace without needing to. And the moment a person no longer needs the world's approval to feel valuable, the world loses one of its most powerful ways to control them. Maybe the most peaceful lives were never meant to look impressive online. Maybe they were meant to feel real, quiet, unnoticed, free.